The sun bleeds into the Pacific, a crimson smear across the horizon, as if the ocean itself is wounded. Guadalcanal rises from the waves like a fever dream, jungle-choked ridges clawing at the sky, vines twisting like veins over volcanic soil. The air hangs heavy, saturated with the rot of mangroves and the salt sting of endless tide. This is no continent's edge. It's an island forgotten by maps, a speck in the vast blue where empires collide not with thunder, but with whispers. A U.S. Navy transport ship, its hull scarred by coral and shrapnel, disgorges the first wave of the 1st Marine Division. They stumble onto the beach at Lunga Point, boots sinking into black sand that sucks at their ankles like quicksand. Malaria mosquitoes drone in clouds, feasting on exposed necks. The men, farm boys from Iowa, steelworkers from Pittsburgh, sons of Dust Bowl migrants, carry rifles slung over shoulders, packs bulging with sea rations and the weight of the unknown. Guadalcanal isn't a name on a briefing map, it's a gamble. The Japanese have built an airfield here, Henderson Field, a strip of crushed coral that could tip the Pacific balance. Take it, and the Allies breathe. Lose it, and the sun rises over Tokyo. Lantern light flickers across topographic maps pinned to a sagging canvas wall. The air smells of kerosene and unwashed wool. Major General Alexander Vandegrift, 54, stands at the center, a man carved from Virginia granite, his face a map of quiet resolve. Steel-gray eyes peer through wire-rimmed glasses, scanning contour lines as if they hold the secrets of scripture. Vandegrift isn't the firebrand commander of legend. He's the architect, the one who measures twice before the hammer falls. His uniform hangs loose on a frame honed by West Point and a lifetime of drills, but beneath it beats a mind that sees battles not as clashes of wills, but as problems in ballistics and terrain. Around him, a cluster of colonels and aides lean in, cigars glowing like fireflies in the gloom. Intelligence whispers have arrived via coastwatcher radio, a Japanese force, elite, landing at Taivu Point, 20 miles east. Colonel Kiyonao Ichiki's 917th Infantry Battalion, 800 men battle-hardened from China, fueled by the Emperor's myth of invincibility. They're coming for Henderson Field, expecting a swift Banzai to reclaim the island before dawn. Lt. Col. Edwin Pollock, Vandegrift's operations officer, a wiry Kansan with a mustache like a broom bristle, jabs a finger at the map. "Sir, scouts report they're moving fast. Light equipment, bayonets fixed. If we hit them on the march, we catch 'em strung out. Doctrine says engage at range, wear 'em down before the creek." Vandegrift doesn't look up. His pencil traces the Ilu River's lazy bend, where it widens into Alligator Creek, a brackish ribbon slicing the coastal plain, flanked by kunai grass tall as a man and coconut groves like silent sentinels. The creek is shallow here, waist-deep at low tide, but it's a natural choke point, 100 yards wide, narrowing to a spit of sand on the eastern bank. Perfect for an advance, deadly for the unwary. "No," Vandegrift says, voice steady as a metronome. He straightens, the lantern casting long shadows that dance across his features like ghosts of decisions yet unmade. "We don't chase shadows in the jungle, we make them come to us." The room stills. Pollock's cigar pauses mid-puff. Vandegrift unfolds a larger overlay, hand-sketched fields of fire, arcs of deflection, pre-plotted artillery grids. Every tree's been paced, every rise surveyed with theodolites borrowed from engineers. The 1st Battalion 7th Marines under Colonel Clifton B. Cates will dig in along the west bank. 2 companies forward, machine guns nested in sandbagged pits, 37mm anti-tank guns zeroed on the crossing like the eyes of predators. Mortars behind, 105mm howitzers on the reverse slope, their crews drilling coordinates until the numbers blur. "We let them cross," Vandegrift continues, his finger tracing the creek like a scalpel. "Funnel them into the open ground. No fire until they're 50 yards out, close enough to see their faces in the moonlight. Then we close the trap." A murmur ripples through the tent. Captain Lewis, chesty puller, ever the hawk, leans forward, his bulldog jaw set. "General, that's butcher's work. My boys'll be staring down bayonets. What's to stop a rush?" Vandegrift meets his gaze, unflinching. Instinct says fight forward, spill blood early, but instinct loses wars. This is calculus. Ranges intersect, enfilade fire multiplies. Patience isn't passive, it's the multiplier. Aloud, geometry chest. Every gun's angled for overlap. The creek's their highway, our banks are the walls. They charge in waves, we stack the dead. Artillery on call, 5-second intervals, air bursts over the rear. We turn aggression into attrition before the first shot. Puller exhales smoke, nods slow. The others exchange glances, disbelief laced with the thrill of heresy. Marine doctrine is leathernecks charging hell with fixed bayonets, not this chess in the dark. But Vandegrift's no theorist. He's seen Bellow Wood where impulse carved graves. Here, on this godforsaken atoll, he'll prove war can be engineered. If the math holds, he thinks, we save lives. If it breaks, God forgive the seconds we waited. The jungle exhales humidity like a beast's breath. Private First Class Frank Pomeroy, 19, from a Brooklyn tenement where pigeons outnumbered dreams, hunches over his water-cooled Browning M1917 machine gun. The barrel gleams dully under a mosquito net draped like a shroud. His hands, calloused from crab pots back home, tremble as he threads a belt of 30 caliber rounds. 250 links, each a brass promise of thunder. The gun's bipod sinks into the mud of his foxhole, a shallow scoop ringed by sandbags stuffed with coral chunks. Around him, Company C, 1st Battalion 7th Marines, settles into the line, a ragged crescent 300 yards long from the creek's mouth north to the Elu. Rifles crackle faintly as bolts are worked. Grenades clink in pouches. The air vibrates with the low hum of fear, men whispering prayers or curses to mask the churn of guts. Pomeroy's squad leader, Sergeant Joe Harris, a lanky Texan with a drawl like molasses, crouches nearby, sighting down his Springfield. Easy, kid. First fire's the worst. Pomeroy nods, but his eyes dart to the east bank. Kunai grass swaying in the breeze, a silvered veil under the waxing moon. They're out there. 800 ghosts with steel for teeth. Rumors filter through the line. Japanese scouts spotted at dusk, probing the edges. Intelligence from the islanders, those shadowy coastwatchers, pins Ichiki's camp at Taivu, but the nips move like smoke. Pomeroy wipes sweat from his brow, the drip of condensation from the gun's jacket plinking onto his helmet like a countdown. Further north, LT Col, Edwin Pollock paces the command post, a cluster of palms shielding radios and maps. His mustache twitches as he verifies ranges with a pocket aneroid barometer. Wind 5 knots from the southeast, visibility fair. Confirm grids, people. Alpha battery on 105s, elevation 320 mils, charge 3. Fire mission Alligator on my word. His voice is gravel, but inside, doubt gnaws. Vandegrift's playing God with geometry. One flinch, and we're the ones funneled. Word comes via runner. Coastal scout Jacob Vouza, a native sergeant from the British Solomon Islands Protectorate, has slipped through lines with a report. Tortured by Japanese patrols, ears sliced, belly bayoneted, he escaped, bandaged only by will, to warn of Ichiki's advance. They come tonight, the runner relays. Banzai spirit, no fear. Pollock absorbs it, nods. Vouza's intel is the linchpin. Ichiki's path confirmed, his underestimation of marine defenses laid bare. One man's agony buys us the board. He glances west where Vandegrift's tent glows faintly. The general's there now, stopwatch in hand, timing simulated crossings. Every second etched, hold fire at 75 yards, tracers at 50, full barrage at 25. The line quiets as midnight creeps. Men huddle in foxholes, rationing sips from canteens that taste of canvas and brine. The creek murmurs, a lazy gurgle over pebbles, while waves sigh against the shore like a lover's regret. Pomeroy's fingers ache on the trigger guard, the metal warm from his palm. Ma said pray before bed. Didn't say for this. He thinks of Coney Island boardwalks, the crack of fireworks, not this waiting, this itch under skin where fear festers. A flare pops distant. Japanese signal? No, just a shooting star, streaking silent. Laughter bubbles from a foxhole, quickly shushed. Pollock's voice carries soft over the line, eyes open, no smoke, no noise. The men comply, shadows among shadows, their breath sinking to the jungle's pulse. Across the island, unseen, Colonel Ichiki's column snakes through the dark. But that's for later. Here on the creek's edge, the Marines wait. The moon climbs, bleaching the grass to bone. A rustle. Crab scuttling? Or boot? Pomeroy's heart jackhammers. Vandegrift emerges from his tent, walking the line like a specter. He stops at Pomeroy's pit, lays a hand on the gun's shield. Son, he says, voice low, this irons your geometry. Trust it. Trust the man next to you. We fire as one. Pomeroy swallows. Yes, sir, but what if they rush? Vandegrift's eyes in the half-light hold the weight of theorems. Then we end it quick. Courage isn't pulling the trigger early. It's knowing when. He moves on, leaving the words to settle like dew. The night thickens, insects trill. The creek's whisper turns mocking. Disbelief hardens to resolve, then to a taut wire of anxiety. Orders ripple. Fix bayonets, load magazines, stand to. Fingers hover, breath shallow. The math is drawn, the trap is set. Every instinct screamed to open fire, but the order was clear, wait. The moon hangs low, a sickle of bone slicing through palm fronds that whisper secrets to the wind. Darkness here is not absence, but a living thing. Thick, cloying, laced with the musk of decay and the faint rot of fallen fronds. Colonel Kiyonao Ichiki moves at the column's head, a silhouette etched in starlight, his Arisaka rifle slung across a back stiffened by years of unyielding posture. At 48, Ichiki is the embodiment of Bushido, forged in Manchuria's frost and Shanghai's smoke. Lean, hawk-nosed eyes like polished obsidian, reflecting not fear, but the fire of divine mandate. His uniform, starched khaki with rising sun insignia, clings damply to skin etched by equatorial heat. But his stride is metronomic, boots sinking into the loam with deliberate crunch. Behind him, the 917th Battalion, Ichiki's Ichiki Detachment, unfurls like a serpent through the underbrush. 800 men, the cream of the Imperial Japanese Army, veterans of the Rape of Nanking, their packs light with rice balls and the weight of prophecy. Bayonets gleam at hips, Type 99 light machine guns slung by corporals who hum fragments of the Kimigayo anthem under breath. No heavy artillery trails, this is a raid of spirit, not siege. Whispers pass like fireflies. The Americans are few, soft from machines. Henderson Field falls by dawn. Banzai, the cry that shatters worlds. Ichiki pauses at a trail fork, consults a crumpled map by the glow of a single match, quick flared, then pinched. The Ilu River lies ahead, a silver thread in the gloom, but scouts murmur of a creek barrier, shallow and mocking. No matter, he thinks. The words a mantra etched in pride, water parts for the worthy. Yamato's spirit flows unbroken. In Tokyo briefings, admirals had painted Guadalcanal as a mop-up. Marines ragged from landing, supplies dwindling. Ichiki's orders were clear: seize the airfield, eviscerate the foe in a single, glorious charge. Numbers, mere arithmetic for the craven. Victory is will incarnate, the soul's edge honed sharper than steel. A runner materializes from the vines, breathless, face smeared with camo grease. Lieutenant Tanaka, Ichiki's aide, young and fervent, salutes sharply. Colonel, forward elements report the creek in sight. No enemy fire. They sleep, perhaps dreaming of home. Ichiki's lips curve, a rare smile, cold as katana steel. Or they cower. Advance in echelons. First company crosses at the shallows, secures the bank. Second follows, fans left, the rest in reserve. Bayonets low, let the whites of their eyes taste our resolve. He waves the column on, the order rippling back like a wave. Boots multiply. The whisper sink of leather in mud, the clink of canteens muffled by rags, the low hiss of breath sinks to the jungle's nocturnal chorus, cicadas droning like distant engines, a gecko's chirp punctuating the dark. As the detachment coils forward, Ichiki lingers, gazing west. Vandegrift, whoever you are, your machines and maps are chains. We are the storm unloosed. Hubris isn't blindness, it's faith armored in myth. The Imperial way, aggression as sacrament, death as ascension. 800 souls, bound not by doubt but by the Emperor's shadow, marching into the equation unaware. Parallel shadows play across let call Edwin Pollock's face as he hunches over a field table. The lanterns hiss, the only sound louder than his pencil's scratch. Maps unfurl like autopsy sheets. Overlays of deflection fans, where machine gun arcs intersect like veins in marble. 75 yards for rifles, 50 for Brownings, 25 for the 37mm canister hell. The air tastes of gun oil and brine, the creeks murmur a counterpoint to the tick of his wristwatch. 0200 hours. Pollock's mustache beads with sweat, not from heat, but the press of precision. 1 degree off and the kill zone phrase. Vandegrift's theorem demands perfection. Sergeant Major Jacob Vouza emerges from the tree line, a ghost in loincloth and bandages, his broad Melanesian frame unbowed by torture's scars. Coastwatcher for the Allies, Vouza had infiltrated Ichiki's perimeter, ears half-severed by bamboo blade, belly gashed, but unbound by ropes he gnawed through in the night. Now, he stands before Pollock, voice a gravel rumble honed by Solomon tongues and British drills. Master Pollock, enemy camp 2 mile east, 800 maybe 9, they talk big. Banzai tonight, cross creek at moon high. Pollock nods, marking the intel with a red X, confirmation, the trap's keystone. You risked hell for this, Jake. Marines owe you the dawn. Vouza waves it off, eyes fierce under kinky hair matted with blood. Risk? This island my blood. Japs take field, they burn villages like mine. Aloud. No. Fight smart, Masta. They charge blind. The report cascades. Runners sprint to batteries where Captain Mike Edson, Raider legend with a gambler's squint, verifies 105mm howitzer lays. Shells stacked like cordwood, fuses timed for airburst. 5-second salvos, walking fire from creek to tree line. Grid Alligator 1, bearing 285, range 200. Charge 4. Gunner's course back cranks whirring in the dark, the metallic snick of breaches echoing like accusations. Pollock paces, stopwatch and fist, timing mock signals, flare up, whistle down, all guns bare. Disciplines the mortar. One twitch and it crumbles. South along the line in a pit ringed by razor wire stakes, Private Frank Pomeroy fights his own war. The Browning's jacket weeps condensation. Slow drips plinking onto his poncho, each a metronome to mounting dread. His squad mates breathe ragged. Harris chews a plug of tobacco, spitting black juice into the mud. Corporal Tommy Reese, a wiry Ohioan with freckles like rust, fingers rosary beads pilfered from a Guadalcanal chapel. The creek glints 100 yards east, kunai grass a silver sea undulating soft. They're coming. God, they're coming, and we're statues. Pomeroy's mind reels. Brooklyn stoops, Ma's potato soup, the girl at the dance hall who laughed at his stutter. Why wait? One burst, end it clean. His thumb ghosts the trigger, the sear's pressure a siren's call. Harris senses it, leans close, voice a drawl wrapped in iron. Easy, Frankie. Pull early, you clip your own. General's got the angles sewn. Trust the math. Math. The word tastes like chalk. Back in basic, instructors bark trajectories. Bullet drop at 300 yards, windage 2 mils cross. But here, in the belly of night, it's abstract cruel. Hold until breath mingled, faces etched in moonlight. Pomeroy glances north, where Company G hunkers in reserve. Silent sentinels under tarps, their trust a palpable weight. They're the hammer, we're the anvil. But anvils crack. A rustle. No, a runner. Contact east. Shadows moving. Pollock's voice cuts the line, amplified by megaphone. Hold fire. Eyes sharp. No word till my flare. The men freeze, pulses thundering louder than surf. Pomeroy's mouth dries, canteen untouched. The drip from his gun accelerates, a faucet of fate. Ichiki's vanguard crests the east bank, the creek a black mirror fractured by starlight. Waves lap lazy at the shore, foam hissing like conspirators. Captain Harada, leading the first echelon, 200 rifles, bayonets low, signals halt, peers across the void. Silence reigns, no challenge, no gleam of steel. Cowards hide, or ghosts. He hisses forward, men wading in, water to knees, then waists, boots churning silt into clouds. The current tugs playful, but resolve steels spines. Murmurs of Tenno Heika, long live the emperor, thread the dark like incense. Ichiki watches from the tree line, pride swelling like a tide. See? The sea yields. Soon, the field. His mind drifts to ancestral scrolls, warriors who charged Minamoto lines with bamboo and fury, spirit trumping steel. This creek is but a ford to glory. The Americans, fattened on comfort, will shatter at the first Banzai. No need for scouts deeper, superiority is axiom. The column commits, second echelon splashes in, light machine guns splashing arcs of water, the whole a dark tide cresting the sand spit. On the west bank, Pomeroy's breath catches. Shapes resolve, silhouettes rising from the creek like drowned men reborn, water sheeting from trousers, rifles held high. 20 yards out now, boots grinding wet sand, kunai parting like curtains. Japanese voices murmur, alien syllables sharp as shards, orders perhaps or prayers. The line blurs. Enemy faces pale smudges, but close enough for the glint of bayonets, the stink of sweat and brine wafting on the breeze. Pollock's flare pistol rises, thumb on hammer. Harris hisses, steady boys, geometry's got us. Pomeroy's world narrows, the drip from his barrel, the whisper of enemy boots sinking inches away, the tick of his heart marking seconds like artillery fuses. Closer, God, closer. Fear coils, not for the charge but the weight. The moral vice of inaction, lives balanced on a razor's theorem. 15 yards. The Japanese fan out oblivious, probing the grass with toes. 10. Bayonets dip, a forest of steel questing forward. The air thickens, pregnant with the unspoken. One cough, one twitch, and the equation ignites. 20 yards. 15. 10. The line between order and chaos was a heartbeat. The world holds its breath, suspended in the moon's indifferent gaze. 10 yards. The Japanese vanguard, 200 shadows birthed from the creek's womb, emerges onto the sand spit, a narrow tongue of coral and crushed shell thrusting west like an accusation. Water sluices from their puttees, bayonets catching slivers of light as they fan into skirmish order, rifles questing low, light machine guns splashing behind like reluctant hounds. Captain Harada's voice cuts the night, a hissed command in guttural Japanese. Susume. Forward for the Emperor, and the line surges, boots whispering into wet sand, each step a soft, inexorable suck against the tide's retreat. They see nothing. No glint of helmets in the grass, no twitch of fingers on triggers. The kunai sways innocent, the creek's lap a lullaby of deception. On the west bank the Marines are statues forged in restraint. Private Frank Pomeroy's world has contracted to the iron tang of his Browning's barrel. The slow drip of condensation from its water jacket plinking onto his thigh like tears from a reluctant god. His breath rasps shallow, a counterpoint to the enemy's murmurs. Alien words weaving through the dark, closer now, laced with the brine of their crossing. Faces, he thinks, stomach twisting. I can almost see faces. The math Vandegrift preached feels like madness. 50 yards for the signal, 25 for the storm. But at 10, the geometry mocks. Bayonets probe the grass mere arm's lengths away, the stink of seaweed and exertion wafting like a harbinger. Latercala Edwin Pollock stands frozen in the command post, flare pistol raised, its cold weight an extension of his will. His stopwatch ticks, tick, 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 marking artillery intervals in silent accusation, 5 seconds from burst to burst, overlapping fans calibrated to the millisecond. Vouza crouches beside him, knuckles white on his captured Arasaka, eyes locked east. They come like crabs to tide, the scout thinks, scars throbbing under moonlight. But tide turns. Pollock's mustache quivers, doubt a serpent in his gut. Hold. Hold. Hold, damn you. The line is a powder fuse unlit, every Marine a spark held in check. Company sees rifles trained on intersecting sectors, 37mm guns. Those squat, snarling anti-tank beasts traverse to the creek's throat, their breeches loaded with canister rounds. 800 lead balls per shell. A shotgun blast from hell at point blank. 8 yards. A Japanese scout stumbles forward, bayonet scraping sand, his silhouette resolving, young perhaps, shoulders squared in ritual poise. Pomeroy's finger whitens on the trigger guard, the seer's bite, a lover's denial. Sergeant Harris hisses from the adjacent pit, voice ablade in the hush. Breathe, Frankie, not yet. The air vibrates, ocean breathing between the grass blades, a distant wave sighing as if in pity. The Japanese press, oblivious, forming up for the final rush. Echelons tightening, a dark wedge aimed at the heart of the line. 5 yards. Pollock's thumb depresses the flare pistol's hammer, click. The metallic ping slicing the silence like a guillotine's fall. The flare arcs skyward, a magnesium comet blooming crimson over the spit, bathing the scene in hellish glow. Shadows leap into stark relief. Japanese faces upturned, eyes wide with shock, mouths agape in the birth of realization. Fire! Pollock's roar shatters the night, amplified by the megaphone's tinny echo. The world detonates. Chaos engineered to perfection, not the wild melee of legend, but a symphony of steel scripted in advance. Pomeroy's Browning awakens first in his sector. A guttural chugga-chugga-chugga, the belt devouring rounds at 500 per minute, 30 caliber slugs tracing glowing arcs that stitch the sand spit like a seamstress gone mad. Geometry asserts. His guns traverse, locked at 15 degrees left, intersects Corporal Reese's Springfield fire. Bolt action cracks popping precise 150-grain boat tails arcing in flat trajectories to tumble torsos at 25 yards. The overlap is merciless. No gaps, no waste, every bullet a vector, in Vandegrift's theorem. To the south, the 37mm guns belch, boom thump, canister shells vomiting their lead hail. 800 balls per tube, fanning 30 feet wide at the muzzle, shredding the vanguard like chaff in a gale. Bodies convulse in the crimson light, uniforms blooming red-black, the sand spit transforming from beach to abattoir in heartbeats. A Japanese machine gunner swings his Type 99 toward the bank, too late. Reese's rifle coughs, a 30-06 drilling his throat, the gun splashing backward into the surf. Northward, the line erupts in staggered waves. Mortars whoomp from concealed pits, 60mm rounds airbursting 50 yards back, shrapnel scything runners who turn to flee. The creek boils. Water churning pink under crossing fire. Japanese in mid-stride crumpling as enfilade rakes the flanks. Horror of efficiency, Pollock thinks, watching from the post, flares afterglow fading to embers. Death by design, clean as a draftsman's line. No heroism here, no clash of titans, just arithmetic incarnate. Ranges zeroed, elevations locked, the kill zone a funnel where aggression feeds on itself. Ichiki, from the east tree line, reels as the thunder rolls. His echelons, pride of the detachment, dissolve in the blaze. Men pitching forward mid-charge, bayonets clattering harmless, screams swallowed by the roar. What sorcery? The colonel's mind fractures, maps lied, scouts blind. This isn't war, it's annihilation scripted, the creek a mote of myth turned grave. He bellows orders, Banzai, charge through, but his voice drowns in the geometry's reply. 105mm howitzers, pre-plotted on reverse slopes, thunder in sequence. Tick-tick-boom. Shells scream overhead, fuses popping at 75 yards, high explosive airbursts, fragmentation cones overlapping like clockwork gears, raining steel confetti on the rear ranks. 5-second intervals, Pollock's stopwatch unerring. The barrage walks east, herding survivors into the crossfire. Pomeroy's gun runs hot, barrels steaming in the humid night, the drip reversed. Now sweat from his brow mingling with powder residue, blackening his face to war paint. They're falling, he realizes, numb, as bodies pile in windrows, patterns precise, aligned to the arcs he'd traced in training sand. A face flashes close, young, like his brother's, eyes locking in the instant before Reese's bullet claims it. The horror coils. Not the blood, but the method. Men moan like wheat in a field surveyed for harvest. We waited. God, we waited. And this is the yield. His gun jams, a belt kink, the eternal curse, fingers fumbling in the frenzy, Harris slapping a fresh link home. Chugga-chugga resumes, tracers lacing the dark like accusatory fingers. Vouza fires methodically, his Arasaka barking single shots, crack, bolt, crack, each a vengeance for his scars. For villages burned, he thinks, sighting a officer's epaulets, for sons bayoneted. The scout's fire is personal, but woven into the weave. His position enfilades the north flank, bullets ricocheting off coral to claim stragglers in the surf. The ocean breathes ragged now, waves foaming red, carrying fragments seaward, helmets bobbing like buoys, a sandal adrift in the tide. The first assault crests and breaks in 90 seconds. Harada's company, 200 strong, reduced to whispers and wreckage. Survivors scramble east, splashing into the creek's shallows, only to meet the mortar's parting gift, whoomp-thump, shells cratering water, limbs cartwheeling in geysers. Ichiki's reserve hesitates, the colonel's face a mask of unraveling faith. Spirit broken by shadows? No, regroup. Flank south through surf, but doubt seeds. This foe fights not with fury but foresight, turning the night into a ledger of losses. On the west bank, the guns stutter to Pollock's whistle, short bursts conserving barrels that glow cherry red. Smoke hangs thick, acrid with cordite and copper jacket burn, the air vibrating with echoes, the ocean's sigh resuming, tentative between the settling coughs. Marines peer from foxholes, breaths heaving, faces slick with awe and unease. Pomeroy slumps against his gun shield, hands trembling not from recoil, but revelation. We didn't charge. We calculated. And they. Bodies litter the spit, hundreds, aligned like data points on a graph, bayonets skyward in frozen defiance. Vandegrift, distant in his tent, hears the thunders fade, maps untouched before him. The equation holds, he thinks victory's weight a hollow in his chest. Precision saves lives, ours. But at what ledger's close? The night quiets, but the jungle stirs, distant cries, the rustle of regrouping shadows. The first wave broken, but Ichiki's pride endures, waves yet to crest. When the guns fell silent, only the math remained. The flare's afterglow fades to bruised purple, the night reclaiming its shroud over the wreckage. Colonel Kiyonao Ichiki stands transfixed, a statue amid the mangroves, his Arasaka clutched like a talisman against the unraveling. The creek's east bank is a tableau of ruin, silhouettes crumpled in the shallows, the surf lapping greedy at sodden forms, carrying the copper reek of blood seaward on crimson froth. Screams echo faint, guttural pleas in Japanese, swallowed by the jungle's indifferent trill. 200 men, the vanguard's steel spine, reduced to flotsam in minutes. Ichiki's chest heaves, not from exertion, but the fracture of myth. This cannot be. Spirit does not yield to shadows. His scouts' reports, Americans weak, airfield ripe, curl in his mind like smoke from a snuffed pyre. Hubris, once a crown, now thorns. The creek, that mocking ford, has become a charnel moat, its waters stained with the emperor's finest. Lieutenant Tanaka materializes from the gloom, uniform rent by thorns, face ashen under helmet shadow. He salutes, voice cracking like dry bamboo. Harada's company, gone. Machine guns from the bank, shells from nowhere. They anticipated the crossing. Ichiki's eyes narrow to slits, obsidian hardening to flint. Anticipated? No, cowardice. They hide behind iron, fearing the blade. But doubt worms deeper. The fire's precision, not frantic, but patterned. Bursts converging like the weave of a net, drawing tight. He scans the west bank through field glasses, lenses fogging with humidity. Glimmers of movement, muzzles winking like fireflies in the kunai, but no massed ranks. A thin line holds. How? Pride surges, a tidal reflex. Banzai is not one wave, but the sea itself. Regroup the second echelon, he commands, voice iron over the tremor. Flank south through the surf, bypass the creek's mouth. Third company straight across, under cover. We overwhelmed their parlor tricks with numbers. For the Emperor, charge. The order ripples. Survivors crawl from the water, bayonets retrieved from the fallen. Reserves, 400 fresh, faces set in ritual masks, form echelons anew. Light machine guns chatter test fires into the dark, probing for weakness, but the west bank replies with silence, a void more ominous than thunder. Ichiki leads the flank himself, boots plunging into the surf's edge, waves cold as betrayal clutching at calves. The ocean breathes conspiratorial, foam hissing around ankles, the moon's sickle mocking from above. They expect the ford. We give them the tide. 200 peel south, a dark ribbon snaking parallel to the creek, rifles high against the swell, the surf's roar masking splashes. Behind, the main push commits, boots churning the shallows once more, a renewed tide cresting with defiant yells. Banzai! Tenoheka Banzai! Lutner call. Edwin Pollock's lantern swings gentle, casting golden pools over artillery maps that glow like forbidden scripture. Grids etched in red pencil, deflection arcs curving elegant as calligraphy. The air hangs thick with cordite's bite, mingled with the wet earth scent of spent brass cooling in the mud. His stopwatch resets, tick-tick, intervals recalibrated. 3 seconds now between salvos, the equation tightening like a noose. Vouza kneels nearby, reloading his Arasaka with captured clips, scars livid under the light. They come again, Masta. Hear the water. Angry now. Pollock nods, mustache twitching as he traces the flank's path on the overlay. Vandegrift's genius anticipates. The creek's mouth fans into a crescent bay, surveyed days prior. Theodolites pinning ranges to coral outcrops. Machine guns enfiladed to sweep the surf like scythes. Signal Company G, he murmurs to the runner, voice gravel honed by the night's toll. Counterattack south, bayonets, no fire till contact. Pin the flank. The boy sprints into the dark, a shadow among shadows. Pollock's gaze lifts to the line. Machine guns steam, Browning's jackets near boiling, gunner swapping water cans with hands raw from recoil. The math strains, he thinks, moral unease coiling like the humid fog. Precision's price, barrels warp, men fray, but break now, and the trap springs shut on us. Southward, Private Frank Pomeroy wipes his Browning's feed tray, the gun's rhythm a lover spurned, chugga fading to hiss as steam vents skyward. His foxhole reeks of oil and fierce sweat, the sand spit across the creek, a charnel gallery under moonlight. Bodies aligned in windrows, bayonets skyward like accusations, the patterns eerily geometric, clusters at 25 yards, stragglers peppered at 50. Like pins on a map, Pomeroy muses, stomach sour. Vandegrift's pins. Sergeant Harris slaps his shoulder, drawls steadying. Second wave splashing kid, eyes on the surf, flankers probing. Pomeroy peers south, ripples unnatural in the bay, dark heads bobbing like buoys in the swell, the ocean's breath quickening to gasps. The main assault erupts first. Japanese echelons surging from the creek, 300 strong, a human arrow loosed in fury. But the geometry awaits, unyielding. Pollock's flare blooms anew, crimson washing the shallows, and the line ignites. 37mm thunder. Boom thump, canister clouds blooming leaden death, shredding the van like autumn leaves. Pomeroy's Browning snarls back to life, belt devouring, tracers lacing the dark in precise fans. Left 10 degrees, intersecting Reese's rifle fire, the overlap a lethal braid tumbling torsos into the surf. Closer this time, Pomeroy thinks, the weights echo in his veins. They learn nothing, we learn everything. Artillery joins the chorus. 105mm from the ridge howl in sequence, tick-tick-boom. Pre-plotted grids blooming fireballs over the east bank, airbursts scything reserves like divine judgment. 5-second cadences tighten to 3, the barrage a walking wall, herding the charge into the kill zone's maw. The creek erupts anew, water geysering pink, limbs flailing in the foam, screams harmonizing with the whoomp of mortars. Ichiki's main wave falters, then breaks. Officers bellowing Banzai amid the dead, but momentum crumbles against the enfilade. Bodies piling in the exact arcs Vandegrift sketched, overlaps multiplying lethality, no escape in the funnel. South, the flank crests the bay's curve, Ichiki wadding knee-deep, rifle raised, 200 shadows fanning onto the beach under surf's cover. Here, unguarded, he urges silently, waves crashing applause to their advance. But the tide betrays. Company G, the silent reserve. 60 Marines under Lieutenant William McKinstry, farm-hardened and fever-thin, erupts from concealed dunes. No warning fire, just bayonets fixed, a low whoop ripping the night as they charge low and lethal. Fix and follow, pour it on. McKinstry roars, Springfield thrusting like a spear, his company a feral wave crashing the flanker's rear. The collision is intimate savagery, steel, kissing steel in the surf, grunts and clashes drowning the distant thunder. A Japanese private lunges, bayonet glancing McKinstry's pack. The lieutenant counters, 30-06 buttstock cracking jaw. Then thrust, red bloom in the foam. Company G's rifles crack point blank, 50 yards no barrier now, the counterattack's momentum turning the bay to bedlam. Ichiki pivots, firing from the hip, crack crack, a Marine crumpling beside him, but the tide shifts. G's enfilade from the dunes rakes the exposed flank, bullets ricocheting off wet coral to claim legs mid-stride. The Colonel's world narrows, waves pounding his thighs, salt-stinging eyes, the acrid sting of powder mingling with brine. Flank fails, spirit falters, hubris cracks. This isn't divine charge, but a ledger's close, numbers devouring will. Back at the line, Pomeroy's gun melts from abuse, barrel warping, the water jacket hissing empty, steam veiling his sight like a shroud. Change barrel now. Harris barks, gloved hands wrenching the red-hot tube free, the sizzle of leather searing flesh ignored in the frenzy. A fresh barrel locks, clunk, and the chugga resumes, but slower, the belts weave fraying under heat. Artillery maps in the post glow fever-bright under lanterns, Pollock adjusting grids on the fly, shift fire south, bearing 210, range 400, walk it in. Gunners comply, howitzers belching in tightened rhythm, shells screaming to bracket the bay, boom, craters blooming in the surf, herding flankers into G's bayonets. The equation tightens, overlaps sharpen, kill zones contract like a vice. Ichiki's detachment hemorrhages, second wave shattered in the creek, flank pinned and pulped in the surf, reserves pinned by airbursts that bloom like crimson flowers over the tree line. Bodies accumulate, patterns refining, windrows denser at the funnel's throat, stragglers dotted like failed experiments. The night pulses with contrast, thunder's roar yielding to gasps, the ocean's breath ragged between bursts, the tick of stopwatches mocking the chaos. Vandegrift, in his tent, traces the maps by candlelight, reports filtering like blood from a vein. Patience holds, he reflects, the victory's geometry a mirror to unease. We outweight them. But waiting, what does it cost the waiter? Dawn hints gray at the horizon, the jungle stirring with the defeated's retreat. Ichiki withdraws, pride in tatters, the creek a scar on his doctrine. The Marines hold, guns cooling, but the air hums with the aftershock. Power born not of charge, but of the void before. They had waited until the last second, and turned patience into power. The first blush of dawn creeps over the ridge like a reluctant witness, painting the eastern sky in hesitant strokes of rose and ash. The moon, that pale accomplice of the night, yields to the sun's advance, its sickle dulled to a ghost. The creek lies spent, its waters lapping languid at the spit, a brackish murmur now, stripped of thunder, carrying the flotsam of folly seaward. A corked canteen bobbing aimless, a sodden map curling at the edges, fragments of bayonet hilts glinting like discarded teeth. The air hangs heavy, saturated not with cordite's bite, but the iron tang of cooling blood and the jungle's exhalation. Mangrove rot mingling with the faint, acrid ghost of spent powder. Silence descends, profound and absolute. No cicada trill, no gecko chirp, as if the island itself mourns the equation's close. This quiet is louder than war, a vacuum where echoes should scream, where the night's geometry settles into stark revelation. The sand spit unfolds under the strengthening light like an open ledger, bodies aligned in precise patterns, data points etched in flesh and uniform. Windrows of the fallen trace the arcs of fire. Clusters at the funnel's throat, where 37mm canister converged at 25 yards. Torsos twisted in radial sprays. Stragglers peppered along the flanks, felled by enfilade from the Browning's overlapping fans, their forms splayed as if pinned to a cartographer's chart. 800 souls, reduced to 778 by dawn's tally. Runners' counts filtering back through the line, numbers crisp as Vandegrift's overlays. Bayonets protrude skyward in frozen defiance. Rifles clutched like talismans. Faces turned to the heavens in expressions caught mid-realization. Shock's wide O, pride's last flicker. The surf claims its tithe, waves folding the fallen into choral embrace, but the patterns endure, testimony to the math's merciless elegance. No chaos here, no random harvest. Just the harvest designed, rows as neat as a reaper's field under harvest moon. Private Frank Pomeroy emerges from his foxhole, boots sinking into the dew-slick kunai, the world tilting in the aftershock. His Browning rests heavy on its bipod, barrel scarred black from the night's fury, the water jacket crusted with evaporated brine and residue. Hands that trembled on the trigger now shake with a different rhythm, exhaustion's palsy, laced with the numb awe of survival. He steps east, careful over the wire, toward the spit, the first Marine to cross since the final whistle. The silence presses, broken only by the ocean's breath, gentle sighs now between the pebbles shift, and the distant caw of a jungle mina, as if testing the air for safe return. Pomeroy's breath clouds faint in the cooling dawn, his mind replaying the wait, those seconds stretched to eternities, bayonets probing the dark mere yards away. We held. God, we held. And this is what patience buys. He kneels by a body, a Japanese private no older than himself, eyes vacant to the sky, a rosary of wooden beads tangled in fingers splayed like roots. The boy's face, serene in death, mirrors Pomeroy's own from a Coney Island snapshot. Wide-eyed, unscarred. Brother? Enemy? Just meat for the theorem. Nausea rises, not from the gore, but the geometry's cold indifference. Lives ledgered, courage measured in mills and yards. Further north, let call Edwin Pollock surveys the field from the command post, maps furled but indelible in memory. Grids walked in reverse, deflection fans now verified in blood. His mustache droops with fatigue, lantern extinguished, the tick of his stopwatch stilled at 4:30, end of engagement. Vouza stands sentinel beside him, Arasaka slung, his scars a map of his own making. Ears ragged, belly's gash a puckered reminder under the loincloth. The scout's eyes scan the spit, unblinking. Many ghosts today, but villages breathe tomorrow. Pollock claps his shoulder, voice roughened by the night's commands. You gave us the edge, Jake. Without your word, this ledger reads different. Vouza nods, gaze distant. Word from pain, pain from their fire. Cycle spins. Aloud. No edge, master. Just truth. They charge blind. You see clear. Word arrives via runner from the south. Company G's counterattack held the flank, bayonets blunted but unbroken, the surf's edge a secondary charnel where waves polish the fallen to bone white. Casualties trickle in, 3 Marines dead, 18 wounded, a tally that mocks the opposite shore's ruin. Pollock absorbs it, pencil idle now, the moral unease settling like dew. Precision's gift lives spared on our side. But the cost, arithmetic doesn't grieve. He glances west, where Major General Alexander Vandegrift emerges from his tent, uniform rumpled but posture unbowed, wire-rimmed glasses catching the dawn's first gleam. The general walks the line slow, a pilgrim at his own altar, stopping at foxholes to murmur thanks. Well done, son. The weight was the weapon. Marines nod hollow-eyed, the silence between words heavier than salutes. Colonel Kiyonao Ichiki staggers through the underbrush, the column a ragged remnant, fewer than 100. Ghosts in tatters, bayonets sheathed in defeat. The trail, once a serpent of purpose, now twists mocking underfoot, vines snagging like fingers of the fallen. Dawn's light filters cruel, illuminating the toll. Faces gaunt with the Emperor's hollow promise. Rifles trailed like burdens, the low moan of wounded carried on improvised litters of fronds and belts. Ichiki's uniform hangs in shreds, salt-crusted and blood-flecked from a grazing round in the surf. His Arasaka clutched white-knuckled. Pride, that unyielding armor, lies shattered. The creek's trap replaying in relentless loops. The sudden thunder, the converging fire, the waves breaking not on glory but geometry's wall. How? The question gnaws, hubris yielding to heresy. Spirit versus shadows, shadows with scales and sights. Scout's blindness, Map's lies, his own orders, Banzai into the void, all unravel in the light's judgment. The detachment halts at a clearing, Taivu's fringe where the sea meets jungle in uneasy truce. Ichiki sinks against a palm, breath ragged, eyes tracing the horizon where Henderson Field mocks untouched. Tanaka kneels beside him, voice a whisper of fealty. "Colonel, we reform. Request reinforcements from Rabaul, the airfield." Ichiki's hand silences him, obsidian gaze fracturing. "Reform? Into what? Cannon fodder for their calculus?" The myth crumbles. Imperial doctrine, forged in continental sweeps, exposed as clay against island precision. No divine wind, no unbreakable will, just men mown by measurement. Shame blooms, hot as the bayonet's kiss he once craved. Failure stains the emperor, stains the ancestors. He draws his Nambu pistol, the slides snick a final punctuation in the dawn's hush. Tanaka's eyes widen. "Sir, no." But the shot cracks solitary, echoing over the waves like a period's fall. Ichiki slumps, blood pooling dark on khaki, the pistol loose in slack fingers. The remnant stares, then turns away. Survivors to the sea. The colonel's end a quiet apostasy to the faith that marched them to ruin. Vandegrift stands at the map table, fingers tracing the creek's bend one last time, the overlays now relics of revelation. Lantern light yields to sunlight slanting through canvas slits, warming the air to a tentative peace. Reports compile. Ichiki's force annihilated, Henderson secure, the Pacific's tide turned at Alligator's edge. Victory's numerals dance, casualties minimal, enemy routed, but Vandegrift's steel-gray eyes cloud with the reflection's weight. We proved it. Control over chaos, patience as the prime vector. Yet the ledger whispers unease, the silence before, that heartbeat of restraint, rarer than resolve. Marines changed, Pomeroy's tremor, Pollock's pause, even Vouza's scars deepened by proxy. War's mirror gleams, calculators versus believers, the former triumphant, the latter entombed in patterns of their pride. He steps outside, the airfield stirring, corpsmen bandaging wounds, cooks firing up chow lines, the drone of a wildcat engine testing the dawn. Vandegrift pauses at the tent flap, gazing east where the creek lies quiet, its spit a sepulchre under the climbing sun. Modern fire control born here, he muses, the theorem's legacy. Overlapping fields, pre-plotted grids, the courage to wait etched into doctrine. Tarawa, Palaliu, Iwo, they'll echo this calculus, lives bought by yards unyielded. But innocence ends, no more illusions of glory's charge. War, calculated as terror refined, brilliance shadowed by the ghosts it tallies. True courage is the weight, he thinks, the moral settling like dust. And it costs the waiter his ease. The camera pulls back, Guadalcanal awakens, jungle verdant and unforgiving, the Pacific ethic beyond. The spit fades to a scar on the sand, bodies shrouded by burial details, the silence yielding to life's insistent hum, waves breathing eternal, birds reclaiming the air. History's page turns, the Battle of the Tenaru, Alligator Creek's verdict, a pivot where aggression met arithmetic and yielded. History would remember the numbers, but never the silence that came before them. If you believe forgotten brilliance deserves to be remembered, subscribe for more untold World War II stories.